What a run we put together this season. I did not think this would be a Super Bowl year for us, let alone a dominant Super Bowl run. Now, the regular season was anything but dominant, but once we got to the playoffs, we did play our best football. We won convincingly against the Eagles, Panthers, and the Jets, while never facing an opponent higher than the 4-seed Cardinals we defeated by 7 in the wild card round. We also managed to be a wild card team that played 2 home playoff games, which doesn't happen very often. And this was after a regular season that saw us get off to a lackluster start, make the move to Jalen Hurts, and then, in the back half of the schedule, went right back to the rookie quarterback to see if we could get that push the offense needed. And ultimately, the thought behind that move did work out. The play style for Richard Hudick benefited the offense, and we put together a pretty good passing game down the stretch. It felt like Hudick, he still made some mistakes, but was helping us get some more big plays, helping us use Justin Jefferson and T. Higgins better, as the running game, with Jalen Hurts was fine, mostly because Hurts, when you have a quarterback that runs, it really skews your rushing production. It's very easy to have a top 5 offense when you're one of only like 5 or 6 teams that has a quarterback who runs very regularly. Look at the Falcons in real life. You're not terrified when they hand the ball off because they have this amazing running game, but the stats will indicate they have a top running offense. Aren't these stats a little eye-opening, though, when you look at Dalvin Cook getting up there in age, under 4 yards a carry with 6 fumbles on the season? That is not a very good year. However, you look at our playoff run, and there are a couple 100-yard performances in there, 4 touchdowns, and no fumbles. So, we got our ring this year. We did what we wanted to do, which was to build a winning team around a young Justin Jefferson, not an old Justin Jefferson. He's only 26 years old. And now that we've gotten this championship, what is next? Well, in these series, we tend to go very far off into the future, and the fact that we're only 3 years into the series right now is very different from series I've done in the past. But we're going to get back on that track now. Hopefully, most of the major franchise bugs are behind us. I haven't heard about the draft reset in a while. I've heard about a new bug with people not able to get into their franchise file. I saw C4 couldn't get into his main franchise, and that's pretty scary. So I know they're doing some maintenance or something. I thought maybe the servers would be down this morning, but I'm able to get on. So I'm not playing a game, so I'm just going to keep going here with the offseason. And I'm not even on the newest patch, by the way. You can play your cloud franchise without being on the newest update, at least at playing against the CPU like I do. I turn off auto downloads because every time Madden drops an update, you never know what's going to happen. I wait to see if anybody else has issues, and I might not update this game for a long time. We'll see. So we spent much of the 2024 season watching games and going through the storylines, and honestly, that's not usually what these series are all about. We like to watch big games. We want to see the players every now and then for context, but watching as many games as we did was really abnormal. I want to get back to being able to go through multiple seasons a lot faster while still watching the big games, but not watching everything. I mean, check out the second half of the season. We did not sim much this year, maybe 4 games total. And ultimately, what these series are supposed to be about are, the team building and the challenges that come with it. Especially when you're going through so many seasons. You can't make short-sighted decisions because they'll come back to hurt you in a few years down the road. We got a glimpse of what Richard Hudick is going to be like perhaps in the future. This +4 morale boost has made a huge difference and showed the kind of play that hopefully we can expect from him in his second season. We have some other players who have become stars in this series, and Keyshawn Oldham is one of our best young players on defense. And I want to see him get better in pass coverage, start to make some more plays there. He's already excellent against the run. I remember when I almost traded Irv Smith during the trade deadline, but then decided that it didn't make a whole lot of sense this year, and he ended up playing a pretty important role down the stretch, and perhaps the decision to move away from him now would be a little bit more difficult. My hope was to see that Greg Crossan would become the new starting tight end, and I think long term, he is definitely going to be the guy that we want. He's got the ratings to be an excellent combo tight end, and I think that we're still probably going to focus on him, but we'll have to see salary-wise how it all fits. It's staff week, and that means that we can have our coordinators hired away, but it doesn't appear that it's happened this year, oddly enough, despite having 2 good coordinators and a Super Bowl winning season, so I guess no change. We've had a few players retire. Justin Pugh and Anthony Hitchens were 2 veterans on our roster. They have retired. Looks like it's them. And then Harrison Smith. We knew he would retire with that storyline playing out and that storybook finish that you hope for. But here are all the retirements from this season. Now I have to refamiliarize myself with this draft class, but of course we're selecting at number 32. So we won't have a chance at any of these players here at the very top. And I don't feel like we have a lot of glaring needs, thankfully. We have Justin Jefferson. The Packers may get Javon Jefferson. We'll see if that works for them. He's up 159 slots. Wow. They have us going Joey Watson, a right tackle. I don't think we'd go tackle, but it's not off the table. You can always move a tackle to guard. All right, right now we have to re-sign our free agents. Let's take a look at our cap space. We currently have 105. That's a lot. But we have some key players unsigned, like Danielle Hunter. And then Fletcher Cox, a veteran. But honestly, this is not a bad situation whatsoever. We're good cap-wise. I mean, we have that rookie quarterback contract, and that's kind of the whole key to having a good cap situation. Also, it's a big deal to have a good kicker like Justin Tucker, so if we offer him a deal, he's going to turn it down. The franchise tag on him, though, would be less than what I offered, so unless there's another situation that we need to attack, he would get the tag. But a lot of our veterans are a little bit older, and the younger ones aren't going to command huge deals. So this gives us a pretty good situation, honestly. Cap-wise, we are so much better off than I expected. But I do not want to bring back Fletcher Cox. I feel like this was a dud of a signing. A player who's been so good for so long, but clearly not playing his best football in Minnesota. We'll let a lot of these veterans test, trying to make this roster a little bit younger if possible. Still like CJ Ham, though. We'll see later on in free agency. But players like Noah Igbenogany, it's one of those situations where it's not expensive to keep them on the team, but you should still keep your eyes out for other options because they're not elite players. I like Igbenogany and I like St. Juste. Both happen to be free agents. But again, I think that these contracts are just so reasonable. And we just saw a playoff run with them without Andrew Booth, and it was just fine. But how do we get a deal accepted here on the first try? I honestly think for Igbenogany, I'm willing to go up a good bit because he plays the slot. He's a good athlete. He's only 25. This would be 3 years, 18 million right here. He's looking for 2 years, 8, but you have to remember the interest is super low. So I know I have to come up, but maybe not that high. This would drop it down to $16.5 million. Reasonable cap hits. And that will get the deal done. I didn't want to lose on that one because I could easily see him going into free agency at 25 years old and commanding a bit more attention. Maybe a little bit of an overpay, but that's a signing you can afford to make when you have a rookie quarterback contract. St. Juste, I don't think I'll be as aggressive, but we also have Andrew Booth coming back. I think I'm going to offer a little bit above the fair offer, and he's going to test free agency. Barry Davidson turns us down. He would have been like our 4th or 5th corner. Like, I could have easily brought him back if I raised the offer, but for a 4 or 5 corner, again, I'm probably not going to go too high. Wishnowski's back. And we are not going to negotiate with any of these players who are intriguing young players at the start of the series. From Smith Marset here on to the right, just development hasn't been there in the early portion of this series, which brings us back to Andre Cisco, and now you consider the retirement to Harrison Smith. Maybe the depth here is pretty important, and I think that we can definitely make room here for Cisco, but not necessarily as a starter, just kind of a just-in-case kind of signing. And then it brings us back to Danielle Hunter, 30 years old, looking for a 3-year contract. We certainly have the cap space. And we have a franchise tag if we just want a 1-year commitment, which might be my preferred route to go. Like, we have the cap space to absorb a big deal this season. Now, that's a big jump. $25.5 million. Obviously, here, we're looking at 3 years. 52 was fair. And he is interested in re-signing. So, it's a significant boost just to get him back for 1 season. But I don't see us spending all the cap space. And getting that just 1-year guarantee, nothing into the future, lets me draft while looking for his replacement without worrying about the money a whole lot. The other option, honestly, that I don't explore often enough is just sign him and trade him later if you don't want to make it work. Although I try not to fleece the CPU too hard if, like, he really falls off and doesn't have the same value as an edge rusher. I say we go franchise tag. It also allows him to be traded if something happens and we want to go in a different direction. It'd be nice to know who else is, like, about to hit free agency if there was a nice menu for that. But now I can't tag Tucker, so that finishes up the re-signing. So what does this team really need as we explore free agency? I think you still look at interior offensive line. Tackle solid, McGraw solid at right guard. Irv Smith is a trade candidate. Let's put him on the trade block and just see what happens. We don't have to move him, but I'm open to the possibility. And then at running back, I think we have to start thinking about the future a bit more. Dalvin was pretty inefficient this last season, even though his ratings are really good. Maybe with a better line, you can still get a really good Dalvin season, but we have to remember, this is Madden. All right, when you get Zonovan Knight as an undrafted running back and he all of a sudden becomes your starter and plays well, that's awesome, but it doesn't happen that way in Madden. It just doesn't. You need to have a player who is high 70s, low 80s at minimum with a good offensive line, and that's kind of the barrier for entry when it comes to having a running game that can be better than bottom 4. So until there is a good RB2, you cannot just move Dalvin Cook and say we'll figure it out in the 4th round. I wish Madden simulation logic and everything would allow for that, but running backs have a different kind of value in Madden. Defensively, I think the focus should be on finding the replacement for Danielle Hunter. The franchise tag buys us 1 year to sort this out. Man, yeah, Tracy Hines lost his dev, but hey, I couldn't just play everybody on a team that I wanted to go and win a Super Bowl. Sometimes rookies got to sit in those situations, and we won the Super Bowl, so it is the risk you take, and we got the payoff. Safety is still on the table then. That definitely hurts, though, losing that dev. He does get the extra development, of course, for his rookie season, but nothing beyond that. I think you can still look at the defensive line as well, but maybe that's later on in the draft. If I'm thinking about how we attack the early rounds, cornerback, Just because I think when you have good corners, the payoff is so big. They make a huge difference. And then edge rusher. Offensive line is the other focus I think you'd consider early. And I'm saying right now, with this team construction, if there was ever a year where it made sense for me to select a first-round running back, this is honestly the type of year to do it. Man, this last season took so long, and we've spent so much time just talking about the team in season. Haven't really gotten to do the off-season fun in a while. And then I bring up the whole running back thesis, and I'm excited right now. We will get to the draft prospects here shortly, but let's take a look at free agency. Justin Tucker at the very top, La'el Collins, Trey Hendrickson, Leonard Fournette, Michael Pierce. I am not looking for a veteran running back as much to fill that starting spot. So no, I am not in on these guys. Michael Carter is an RB2 because he's already interested, I think is a possibility. Last year, Chase Edmonds was the RB2. Michael Carter could be the one this year if we want to go after him. $3.3 million a year does not seem like a lot to ask for at all. And if not Carter, I think you'd be Ronald Jones or something like that, and I would just prefer to go with Carter. Along the offensive line, there's Dion Dawkins, who has 9 teams interested, as expected. Andrew Norwell, who is down to a 79. Connor McGovern. It's kind of a light free agent class this year. La'el Collins is there. So he has a lot of interest in us. And you can shuffle things around. He can go inside to guard. Forget if he played much guard for the Cowboys. I seem to remember him playing a little guard, but maybe I'm off. They had a really nice offensive line there for a while. So you can go after La'el Collins. Jadeveon Clowney, Michael Pierce, Fletcher Cox, both interested. Trey Hendrickson at 30 years old. Doesn't seem like the kind of move that makes sense with our roster construction. And then Foye Oluokun, if you need a coverage linebacker, he's already got the skill. We're trying to develop 2 young players to have that kind of skill. And actually, his regression is kind of taking it away. So Darius Smith available once again, and then Darius Slay, Dante Jackson. Some decent veteran corners. I don't see a whole lot I want to do here in free agency. So honestly, what I think what ends up making the most sense is trying to make that run at Collins. What else am I going to do with the money? He is 32. He probably only wants a 1 or 2 year contract though. But that's to me what makes the most sense. We could really boost the offensive line for a couple of years. Let's see what this first offer would do. And all right, we're competing with a lot of teams. What does it take to get La'el Collins? Well, that puts us ahead and leaves us with around $30 million left, which would allow us to fill out the roster with comfort, perhaps have some rollover for next year. That's a nice benefit too. You don't have to just go all in with your cap space every year. The benefits to rollover are quite nice. Oh, Amon-Ra St. Brown, only an 82 here, so he hasn't had the huge development like he has in real life, where next year in Madden, he'll be at least 91 overall, I'd say. But again, wide receiver is taken care of, and we have a more explosive player who fits the same style that he does in Quan Alexander. So, you know, I'm not spending money for the sake of spending money. Why don't we bring back Justin Tucker, though, if possible? Let's not forget about the value he's had when this game wants to attempt so many long kicks. But those two, and then Michael Carter makes sense to me. Nobody else interested in Carter. Let me just give, let's say a 1 year offer or a 2. Just because, yeah, you never know. Having that extra year might pay off. 2 years, $8 million for Michael Carter. I don't really see that being a bad signing, and I think that he'd be easily tradable if it didn't work out. Another thing, too, is that I put Jalen Hurts on a multi-year contract here. So he's also a trade option if we want to see if we get anything decent in a trade. I have to see where our picks are right now. I forget, because I'm doing 2 series here, if I've given up picks in this series as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 2 7s. So I have not sacrificed draft capital in this series. We are in such a good spot. I do like CJ Ham. Let's give the fullback a good offer here. I honestly think that's enough targets for us to get started. Last time I saw this, we were on top. Let me increase the Collins offer a little bit more. Pretty big offer here, but I just don't see what else we can do with it. Wait, why did it drop to 4? Is it like not holding my spot here? Why doesn't it remember what the last offer I had was so I can easily increase it? It's that kind of quality of life thing, man. So we are going to have to get pretty aggressive here, it looks like, to get into first place. So we're getting into, single digit cap space. If we can't get him, it's not the worst outcome. But I'd love to see us have a really, really good offensive line. So what do we think about this current setup? That's a big offer we just gave to Collins, like 22 a year. But 15 teams interested, it's what you got to do. All right, first evaluation period. And Tucker, Collins, Carter, Ham. We got all 4 players that we wanted. And it's still saying we have 26 million cap space. So it must not have been calculating that perfectly. Here are some other signings around the league. Trey Hendrickson goes to Dallas, 3 years and roughly $60 million, a little bit more. That's a second big contract for him. Hassan Reddick going to the Titans. Dion Dawkins. So Dawkins at tackle, he ended up getting 2 years and roughly $30 million, significantly less per year than we just gave to Collins. But yeah, it wasn't a year for big free agents here in this series. That's a lot of money to pay for a guard, but I think it's going to really help out our running game. Gives us a lot of flexibility across this offensive line. And then you go to defense. Still got Daniil on the franchise tag. Like, we just significantly overpaid basically for Lael Collins and paid Daniil Hunter double what he was looking for just because we wanted a 1-year contract, and we still have $30 million in cap space. Value of a rookie quarterback deal. But even then, we're paying Jalen Hurts 15. So it all fits. I don't think we've paid Lewis Seen yet. We haven't paid Josh Ballard. Not that he'd get like a huge contract. Oldham's on his rookie deal. Yeah, it's just working. But why don't we start to explore this draft a little bit and see what we're able to do? We know what our needs are at this point, and thankfully it's a very short list. We can afford to be aggressive. We can afford to just build depth even. So let's see what we have here. We know quarterback is not going to be a concern, but I said running back, I would consider even in the first round. The top running back prospect is James Simmons. Receiving back, 4.4 speed, good 3-cone. He's a very good athlete. B break tackle, C carrying. I think if we were to make a move like that, we would absolutely need to make that player a focus player. F ball carrier vision though, early in the draft, that's probably a deal breaker unless you run like 4.26. Good athlete. But no, F vision, C break tackle, D carrying, not here. JoJo Hall, A break tackle, B vision, but do we lose significant speed? 4.5. That's good for a big back. Let's see. Acceleration's great too. All right, A stiff arm. I think JoJo Hall is also someone to consider. I also have some interior linemen already on my board that I've scouted, and just looking at the right side, it seems like there's some pretty good depth, and I think you can easily get day 1 starters on day 2. So that is something else to consider. And if we're in a spot, though, in the first round where it's like we can take a player like Lane Quincy, I think you have to do that instead of the running back there, unless we find something that indicates those running backs are special. So this O-line class honestly seems to be pretty solid. They had us taking Joey Watson there in the first round in the mock. So this is the caliber of player that might be there at 32. And that pass block finesse, does that end up matching the run block finesse? Possibly. I wonder though, like, run block power versus run block finesse. Power has to be significantly more important, right? And then we talked about finding the replacement for Danielle Hunter. I have a few players here that I've already looked at edge rusher, but typically it's a spot where the elite players go very, very early. Trading up from 32 is a tall order. But a player like Rodney Westbrook could be on our radar. He has B finesse moves. He's not much of a run stopper at this stage. Elite acceleration, solid speed. So he's going to have pretty good get off. But I think you'd like to know if he has a little power in his game as well. Definitely more of a second round player. Not even going to look at these top 5 projected players. I'm not sure I could trade up. Like offering a future first, a second round pick. I just don't think it's even worth looking into. How about Bruce Woodbury? 297 pounds. Great acceleration, solid speed. Honestly, he might be a good enough athlete to play on the edge even at almost 300 pounds. That versatile. A player you could kick inside. Just need confirmation on the power. He is a run stopper archetype though, so you know that the pass rushing is not going to surpass his run stopping ability, otherwise he'd be a power rusher archetype. I've already scouted some D tackles that I like as well. It's a spot where you can always use another one. Just look at the Philadelphia model. They have a really good foundation for how they build their team up with depth along the offensive and defensive lines. They don't even have to hit on every pick because they always take multiple swings every year and they hit enough. They can afford to miss and it doesn't even matter. And then the corners. Already 4 on my board. But I've already talked a little bit about the corners, and it's one of the harder positions, I think, for me to draft, because if you look at the coverage grades, so many times you're unable to find A or B grades. You have to almost just get lucky. And it seems that the players that I have a blind spot for and I never end up taking are the early players who are excellent athletes with like C coverage but happen to have hidden development. So they come in as rookies with good speed, like 71 man, 70 zone, hidden development. And that's kind of what a home run looks like at corner in Madden. It's not often you find the higher coverage grades. In this case, we have one player who has at least B in both, and that's Tyrese Mitchell. He's projected top 5. If you show that ability in both spots, the game has you going so early. And that makes it really tough for me to pick a corner over somebody else, just because of the opportunity cost. I have to get lucky with development for it to really work out. Whereas I can go to edge and I can find like a B block shed, B power move, B awareness player like anytime I want. If we end up trading Jalen Hurts, I also think we have options here for his replacement. Marcus Mariota and Tyler Huntley would be the top targets, I think. And Gardner Minshew maybe as my third choice. Trubisky, maybe. But imagine I actually had to play Mitchell Trubisky in like a key game. So if you consider Deon Robinson as perhaps the new starting left end, I feel like we could go into week 1 with this team and not even need the draft, and we'd be just fine. As far as free agency goes, I think I'm done. I got those 4 players. I don't need anything else as far as veterans go along the line. Checking out mock draft 4. Yeah, Tyrese Mitchell they have going at 2. The one corner where you're like, yeah, he's definitely going to be good is going probably at 2. They have us going Lane Quincy. So good indication that he would be there. And if he is, it's hard to pass. They have the Packers going with a new receiver. Maybe the other one, yeah, he went up. Javon Jefferson. Number 1 receiver this year has F catching. But he ran 4.25 and 4.24. So it's the risk you take. They got a few quarterbacks here that could go in the first round. We got Cleveland, Indianapolis, likely taking quarterbacks, the Commanders as well. We do have to decide now on 5th year option, and it's for Lewis Cine. And I think that we want to pick this up. He is kind of more the long-term replacement for Harrison Smith. He's very versatile, an excellent player to develop here in Madden 23. So I think the private workouts are actually pretty simple. Let's try to see how good those running backs actually are. We'll scout JoJo Hall and then James Simmons. Those are the 2 that you could consider very early. And then Bruce Woodbury, another player you could consider in the first round. Easy as that. We have trade offers, by the way. It's only for Irv Smith, though. What would it take here for me to give up Irv Smith? I think you'd have to be giving up a 3 or more in terms of overall value. Dante Jackson, who was just available in free agency. We got a few players here in the 70s. So they're matching, well, Irv's an 81, so they're trying to match the overall with veterans and not picks. Usually they offer picks. So there's not really any reason to take this trade. Although I wonder about Campbell there and his ratings, but I can't check them from here. They only have 3 corners, and they're willing to give up Wendell Campbell. Entering year 2 as a normal dev corner. For another team, this would be a great move to make. But we are not that team. Low press, low man, a safety playing corner, essentially. And now the final mock draft. As we take a look again. Oh, they have Sammy Sharp going at 7 now. He was supposed to go way later. Bruce Woodbury's at 10. Okay, so he's not going to be there for us. The running backs, I don't think are anywhere to be seen. So I don't think we have to go running back early. Ooh, they have us taking James Simmons now. They have Lane Quincy going a little bit earlier. I am open to trading up. And if I want to get a lineman and a running back, I might have to trade up twice. And then you consider edge rusher. But let's go take a look at that private workout deal. We'll start off with James Simmons. They projected us to take him. Again, very good athlete. And skill-wise, he can break tackles. He's a kick returner who can catch the ball. But make you miss ability is in question. B break tackle is good. James Simmons shows good ball security at times, but needs to improve in that area. There are concentration drops, but he fights for every single inch, avoids big hits, and gets yards after the catch. So I think the main thing here with Simmons is that he can catch the ball really well. JoJo Hall is a different kind of running back. He's 228 pounds. He covets ball security over everything else. So, over breaking tackles. Needs to work on concentration drops. Fights for every inch, avoids big hits, and gets yards after the catch. So, not as good of an athlete, but he is a good athlete still. 4'5" at 200 and almost 30 pounds. B vision, A break tackle, A carrying. He can pass block, stiff arm, truck, but he's not going to be the best pass catcher. Between the tackles, grinder. So I think of his skill set, it's like Najee Harris without the pass catching ability. What's that worth? Not a first round pick. That's a second round player, max. James Simmons, on the other hand, I think he's actually a really good comp for the player we just signed in Michael Carter. So I think that we can possibly find a future starter here, but not a player worth taking in the first round. And if we check out the overall board here, Simmons is the 17th ranked player. So they're going to have him pretty early in the second round if he does make it there. I guess I'm more intrigued with JoJo at 43 overall. Second round. But do we think the ceiling is there? We know he can't catch the ball right off the bat, but as a runner, is the ceiling high enough? Welcome to the 2025 NFL Draft, everybody. We are officially underway. Picking at 32nd overall, it's a long wait here for our Vikes. The way I like it. The Seattle Seahawks opened the draft by selecting Jermaine Dunn, right tackle out of Ohio State. And the Texans are selecting second. They're expected to go corner. And they do take Tyrese Mitchell. Big drop off between him and the next guy. The Lions go Torrey Sawyer, linebacker out of Vanderbilt. And then the Jaguars go KJ Taylor. Tampa Bay is going to go with tackle Jeff Adkins. So a couple good tackles off the board, and then Stan Gafford, first quarterback from Ohio State, goes. Tennessee is next, and they go Sammy Sharp. That does end up happening. A sharp rise in his draft stock at the very end of draft season. The Giants go Kendrick Hughes. The Dolphins go Cam Trent. Bruce Woodbury. I guess I was right to be interested in him, just didn't realize he'd be a top 10 pick. Javon Jefferson, a rise for him as well. Wide receiver to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Parker Bartell. Justin Nicholson to the Rams. Dalton Nelson, a safety to Chicago. Rayshawn Brockers. So like those corners, there was a clear drop off. And you still got to be willing to take them in the middle of the first round. Stephen Lewis. Browns take a quarterback. We have 3 first-round quarterbacks, and we could see a 4th headed to Indy. Buffalo at 21, Jeremy Carroll. And the Colts take Quentin Bruce. 4 first-round corners. We'll see if they're going to be any good, or if they should be. Joey Watson is off the board. And this is where I think we start to consider the trade-up. Because we have a short list of needs. Lane Quincy, number 1 available player. Imagine the offensive line if we go and add him to the team. A terrific athlete. A player who isn't injury prone. Doesn't have significant weaknesses. Just, he's not as good against finesse. But he's excellent against power. And I think the kind of player that is worth trading up for here in the first round. My question is, do I have to give up my second round pick? Interesting. Falcons' top need is quarterback. They have Desmond Ridder. Now, I realize I could probably trade them like Jalen Hurts and a 4th round pick and maybe make this work. It's just not the kind of trade I typically do here. Don't like to trade with players in the draft because teams overrate them in trades by a lot. We can probably do this for a 3 and maybe a 5. They're probably going to make me give the 4. But we're going to tell them it's a 4th round pick. Just not that it's in the future. Oh, you got to be kidding me, Atlanta. I'm really glad that we can only put 3 picks and players in trade offers still in 2022. Hey, I got the trade to work, though. So I was offering them a 3 and a 4 next year. I just swapped them. I made it a 4 this year and a 3 next year. So I still have my 3rd round pick this season. Just have to work on getting a pick back next year, which we have a full year to work on that now. So we have traded up. And I'm always trying to build an excellent offensive line. And I think that we are really doing that this year. Lane Quincy, unfortunately, has normal development, but he is the player I want to slot in as the starting center this season. So he's 23, a little bit older, normal dev. That's not the best situation to be in, but skill-wise, right off the bat, he's going to be in a good spot. And I would imagine with all those A grades, we're looking at maybe a 74 overall player. So now we're kind of on running back watch, but again, forcing it doesn't make a lot of sense. We're also looking for edge. Neither one has to happen, but Rodney Westbrook is a player that I think would be very intriguing. I have Brandon Waters on the board too, but I think I'd take him after because we know he has the D power move. I think corner is now off the table for this draft, and there is no need to even consider any more offensive linemen, even though they might be the best players available when they come up. I mean, you'd already have the Lael Collins replacement ready to go probably. But we didn't have to give up our 2 in this draft or our 3, which should give us some options for trading up if need be. But we're going to end the 1st round. James Simmons, a 1st round running back to Carolina. Do they still have CMC in here? Yep. So it's back to the D'Angelo Williams, Jonathan Stewart days. Davin Bowles and Gerald Terrell end the 1st round. We get to the 2nd. Another quarterback goes. Wait a minute. Has Seattle taken 2 quarterbacks? They still do that in here? I thought they took Sammy Sharp. Sharp went to Tennessee. They opened the draft with a lineman. Now get a quarterback. So that's a cool move, actually. The Lions go safety. So that's defense now at their first 2 picks. And then JoJo Hall, top of the 2nd. Yeah, I thought he'd be around a little bit longer. So that does hurt our pursuit of another running back this year. There are still a couple on the board that I didn't really talk about, but let's talk about them now. Stephen Covington, power back. How does he compare? 4.5 to high 4.8 speed. A similar athlete. Good speed, good strength, good acceleration. A vision. A to C break tackle, A to C carrying. He has a chance to be about as good of a prospect as JoJo, just based on the ranges here. Similar. Covets ball security over everything else. Needs to work on concentration drops. These traits here seem to be pretty common. And then we have Zach Evans. Clemson running back. Shows good ball security at times, needs to work on it, and the generic traits there that we've found with all these running backs. Great speed, a step up, decent strength, solid acceleration. And you do get back some of that pass catching ability. I wouldn't say that it's at an elite level though. B vision, C break tackle, B carrying. I just think maybe they're worth a pick in the 3rd. Here's another interesting player now. Trent Cage. 231 pounds. All right. Oh, man. He only has solid speed. I saw the 40 times. But his speed is only solid. How does that work? Trent Cage. Vision, break tackle, carrying, stiff arm. If he had great speed, I would be in. But solid speed, like 86, at 4.4? Oh, man. How does 4.41 and 4.45 translate to solid speed? And what's the point of the numbers? I've got to know Trent Cage's speed. This is going to bug me. We're going to look at these running backs at the very end because I want to know if there was a chance. And Mr. Running Back over here, who said he was open to taking one in the first round, if I don't end up taking any and there's a good option somewhere, going to be tough to live that down even after winning a Super Bowl. I don't think I'll be trading up in this draft, though. Tony Duval goes, another running back. I still have options for O-line. We can have the best offensive line in football this year with depth. And then there are some defensive linemen that I still think are intriguing. Rodney Westbrook just went, though, to the Falcons ahead of us. Brandon Waters. I'm really tired of this run on edge players and stuff. Stephon Covington's gone. Yeah, this is usually where I see my board dry up pretty fast. I still have 6 players on the board. It's hard to argue against John Westbrook being the best available player. 22 years old, A awareness, B pass, B run block. It is not a need. And he does have a weakness. So if I take anybody else, I know I'm not taking the best available player. Do we like Jalen Rice? He is another edge rusher. He is a physical player. He has a spin as a counter move, has a swift arm over move, and utilizes power and leverage to bull rush. High motor. Often looks to rip the ball away. Good discipline. The traits sound like exactly what you want. The athleticism is there. The finesse is there. But he's a one-dimensional player. C awareness. Probably not the highest overall. But the traits may have done it for me. I think I want to take Jalen Rice here in the second round. Hidden development. Let's go. Yes. Speed. Strength. Hidden development. We can work on the power moves. Oh, that's big time. We have to immediately get him out of that number 78. You are not playing right tackle. So that makes me feel pretty good right there. The last edge rusher on my board happened to have hidden development. John Westbrook, he goes just a couple picks later. No surprise. So now we have a 3, 5, 6, 7, 7. Zach Evans is gone. I don't know if I'm taking a running back in this draft. John Holt is gone. So either I take one bottom 3, or I go to the 5th and hope someone's there. Or I trade up with my 5th round pick or something like that. 2 players on the board. Bernard Johnson is one of them. He's a run stopper, developmental defensive tackle, high bench reps, great strength. What I liked about Johnson here was that the C's across the board, I think, is okay for like a developmental player, especially if that block shed is truly an A or B. I don't mind that. This could end up being a little early, but I like having those big nose tackles to develop. Sherrod Carmichael's on the board. A press. Gonna have solid speed, but D-man, F injury, zone's only a C. Bernard Johnson or a running back. Trent Cage is still there. Rudy Blackstock got some boost to his draft hype at the end. Speed is good. Strength is decent. Vision's a C. Break tackle's a B. Can catch the ball and run routes. Here's an undrafted running back. Now we're getting into an interesting spot. A Vision. All right. with good speed and elite strength. It's an interesting combination is all. All this talk about running back just to have a 90+ overall running back lead us in rushing again this year. It's going to look really funny at the end of the season, I imagine. I'm going to take Bernard Johnson. I know it's a bit of a long shot, longer development timeline, but the strength is there. I covet this skill set, and nothing is a D or an F. Like, that's got to be a pretty good situation. I'm expecting mid to high 60s everything outside of block shed. And now it's just a matter of, do I take a running back with what I have left as more running backs continue to go? And I'm not picking in over 50 selections. Here in the 5th round, at the very bottom, my options are slim, and I think the UDFA running backs are even going. The guy I was just talking about with the strength and speed is not there. They've taken everybody I've had interest in. Not going to stop me from looking. Devontae Dalton, 4.47. We have great strength, solid speed. I want a little more speed. B carrying, B vision, B stiff arm, C spin. Devontae Dalton, I think, is a draftable player. He can also catch the ball. I am going to trade out of this pick. Just a matter of with who. Dolphins or the Raiders? Who's going to be worse? The projection is like very similar. I'm going to go with the Raiders. That gets us a future 4 next year. So we're missing a 3 next season, but we have 2 4s. And now we're going to pick in the 6th round. They moved up for Richard Overton. He's still there. Here in the 6th round, I'm going to go after a running back. We're going to select Devontae Dalton out of Tulsa. 90 speed and 82 strength here at 224 pounds. We'll learn more about him soon. I still have 2 picks to make. Nicholas Goodwell is from Minnesota. He has marginal speed, though. That's kind of a deal breaker. At this point, I'm just looking for depth, bottom of the roster if possible. We're going to select a quarterback. The accuracies look all right. He has no arm strength, but he can run around a little bit. Tyler Haynes out of Missouri is our first 7th round selection. And now Mr. Irrelevant. Who's it going to be? We're going to select a safety here. Out of Mississippi State, Reed Ellington. He's an aggressive ball hawk. He has A hit power, A to C tackling, maybe just a special teams player. Mr. Irrelevant, Reed Ellington. And that, everybody, concludes the NFL draft for this season. Let's take a look at our class. 75 overall right off the bat with Lane Quincy. Just thought the ceiling with him was pretty good. Really high, actually. There were a lot of A and B grades. The finesse is a little bit of a concern, but honestly, I think that as a day 1 starting center, he'll have a chance to thrive. Really excited about this selection and the offensive line that we are able to build. Jalen Rice is only a 66, but there's long-term upside if we get him on the field early. Obviously, that development can go away. So can he make an impact as a rookie with these ratings? Finesse moves and power moves aren't all that impressive. Might be a little tough to get him on the field a lot. But he's the next player we're trying to develop as an edge rusher. We go Bernard Johnson as a D tackle. And the block sheds is 73. Power moves is 67. So I think that long term, he can be a good run defender, offer a little bit as a pass rusher. You'll take that. And then running back Devontae Dalton. So we get a 66 overall player. Morale's down right now. 90 speed, 89 acceleration. Nothing here is extremely low and nothing is extremely high. Is he able to separate with this skill set? We will see. Tyler Haynes is only a 59 overall quarterback. More of a practice squad player. And he would need some development before being the true backup to Richard Hudick. And then Reed Ellington, our final selection of the day. Tackling's at 67, hit power's high. We'll see if he makes the team. But around the NFL, here's what happened. Jermaine Dunn went number 1 overall. Hidden development tackle from Ohio State. Needs some time, but he should get there. He should be fine. The highest overall players selected. Tyrese Mitchell went number 2. Hidden development corner. Him and Derek Stingley developing. So, the ratings, you wouldn't look at them and think, yeah, that's the best player in the whole class. But he is. Torrey Sawyer's a 74. KJ Taylor a 72. Stan Gafford was the first quarterback who went. Hidden development. The Commanders have a new quarterback at the helm. Sammy Sharp, a 70, went the very next selection. He too has hidden dev. Quarterback out of Indiana. Accuracy is a little spotty right now, but he can run around. Bruce Woodbury, 71. Normal development. It turns out he has okay power moves and okay block shed right away. An interesting player, though. You can play all over the line. Javon Jefferson, the top receiver, was only a 70 overall, but had hidden dev as a playmaker. A 59 physical player. Catch in traffic is low, release is low. 99 speed, though. That is big time. Yeah, he was the biggest boom or bust player of the class. So some interesting players going here in the first round. And then the corners that went after the top player still end up looking pretty good. I just have a hard time looking at the ratings when it says like C-man, D-zone, or whatever this ended up being, and think, yeah, I'm taking that player at 14. Quentin Bruce went at 22. I think he was the 5th quarterback who went, and it seems like we have a lot of good, young, hidden dev quarterbacks entering the league this year. So nobody had a massive reach or anything in the first round. It looks like everybody seems to have gotten a pretty interesting player. But now if we start to talk about running backs, James Simmons, hidden dev. So Simmons might have been the player to take if you want a future starter. JoJo Hall went pick 4 of the second round. Hidden development power back. 91 speed, 84 break tackle, 93 acceleration. JoJo would have been a really good choice. William Carrington, I don't think I had him on my board. Hidden dev. The top 3 all have hidden development. Tony Duval, 71. Normal development. So now we get the drop off. Still a intriguing athlete. Stephen Covington, 75 overall. Normal development. Man, that would have been nice too. We had options out there. Now, I took a center, and then I waited my turn in the second round. So, who went afterwards that would have been an option? Zach Evans from Clemson's a 72. Are the mid-round running backs in this game a little more viable? 70 or 94 speed? Zach Evans would have been fine. John Holt at 69. He was not on my radar. There's plenty of speed in this class. I don't remember them all having that good of speed. No other running back went in the third round, but we selected a nose tackle. So now we had 2 chances to take these next running backs we're about to go through. Juan Barker, normal dev out of Troy, had the speed. Deion Knox out of Iowa. 91 speed again. A lot of these skill sets have a ton of overlap. We go to the 5th round now. And Rudy Blackstock was a 67. Trent Cage was kind of the next running back I liked. Another low 70s power back. Doesn't really catch the football well. Dion Moorhead at 68. Alan Strait was the next one I really liked. Normal dev, 72 overall power back. Just a wonderful blend of skills there, man. And a little bit of pass catching ability. Alan Strait 100% would have been my 5th round selection. We ended up taking Devontae Dalton at 66. So we still got decent speed and a decent blend of other core attributes. But he is a 66 overall. He does have a little pass catching ability. Devontae Dalton. We'll see if he gets a chance. But I feel like there were options out there. But trading up in the 1st round for a center made that next part difficult. I would have had to make, a 3rd round or a 2nd round pick there. But I guess I had some options too in the 4th. Would I rather have a hidden dev edge rusher or a running back that plays behind Dalvin Cook though? Like, who has the better chance of hitting? Obviously, I went edge rusher. There are no rookie free agent running backs above a 66, so we are going to roll with who we have into the season. I'm not even sure how many of these guys are going to get a chance to play. Like, why did Buffalo need to take Alan Strait when you have James Cook and Devin Singletary? Zach Evans is behind J.K. Dobbins and Rashad White. We should pay attention to the practice squads and cuts, though. Check out the Eagles depth chart here. They go 3 deep with Sanders, Madison, and Henderson. DeMarcus Wooden, if they keep 4 running backs, he'd be on the team. But if they don't, he'd suddenly become available. Might be available anyway. You know what? I did kind of forget about Keith Boyce during this draft. I didn't need Lane Quincy. Boyce also has normal dev. We have a lot of offensive linemen. But we get a rookie who can start. Boyce was, ending his 2nd year. He's still lower rated, by the way. We did get an upgrade in terms of overall rating for a rookie. It's just a slim upgrade there in the 1st round. But we do have some players that could be traded. I think I have to be a little more willing to take a chance on a guy in the 3rd or 4th round in this game. Like, I've already found it out with the offensive linemen. They're more playable than they've ever been. And I think maybe the same is true for some other positions. When you're in the 3rd or 4th round and everybody is still in like the low 70s, those are players that can start contributing early. I have been very critical of this game, but one of the things that I like the most about it has been that they have made more players in the draft playable earlier. And I think I have to be willing to take some guys like that in the 3rd or 4th and not just think like long-term nose tackle starter, possibly. So that's just part of learning the ways I want to play this game. But I hope you enjoyed the offseason, everybody, and are looking forward to year 4 of the series. Next time we kick it off with preseason and get into week 1, it looks like. We get Kansas City in week 1. Let's take a peek at this schedule. We open against the Chiefs, get the Steelers and Giants, and then go to take on Detroit, Bengals, Green Bay. We'll face Green Bay twice in 3 weeks, same with the Bears. And we close the season versus the LA Rams. So that is going to do it for this episode, everybody. Leave your thoughts down below. What would you have done differently with this offseason? Please drop a like if you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you all next time. Have a great day.